afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dairy Signal. We're so happy that you've joined us on this Thursday, June 25th, for the last Thursday episode of the Dairy Signal during fabulous June Dairy Month, which before we got on here, we are talking about all the great goodies that we recently had at a blood drive that was held at our office in honor of our amazing dairy farmers that we work for and with professional dairy producers. So I just want to say huge thank you to all the farmers that allow us to do the work that we do. It's always a pleasure to serve you. And today we're going to be talking about a really important topic that everyone needs to step back and just make sure that to focus on themselves as well. And so today we will have Melissa Pluckelman Brown, outreach specialist with the National Farm Medicine Center and Marshfield Clinic Research Institute, to talk about health screenings and how we can make sure to continue to be proactive with our own health. So Melissa, with that, if I want to turn it over to you, if you want to give a little bit of background about yourself and the work that you do, and we're excited for this discussion here today.
Thank you so much, Emily. And yes, today we're going to focus specifically on blood pressure. So a little bit about my own background. I grew up on a dairy farm in Stetsonville, Wisconsin. So very close to the center of the state in Marathon County, the biggest county in the state. And our dairy farm was very diverse. So we had about 45 to 60 head of cattle, but then we also had chickens, ducks, dogs, cats, pigs, turkeys, peacocks, horses. If it's a farm animal, we probably had it. But dairy was our main source of income. And so that's how I grew up, and still to this day just love anything having to do with dairy farming and love connecting with my local dairy farmers. But now I went to school. Well, I went to school for agricultural education, and I taught at my local high school for 6 years. And then I moved into this space with the National Farm Medicine Center. And at the National Farm Medicine Center, we do research on farm incidents, farm fatalities, and farm illnesses. And we look at what causes these things and how can they be prevented so that our farmers can stay safe, healthy, and happy. And then we work to give resources back to farmers to keep you in that safe space. And so today, we're specifically talking about health of our farmers, and we're specifically talking about blood pressure health. So Emily, you were talking about just earlier this week, you did a blood drive, which is so great because that's definitely needed throughout our state and throughout our communities and throughout our country. But let's talk about specifically blood pressure. So kind of why are we doing this? Why are we talking about blood pressure? And really, as farmers, your life is so important. And that's why we're going to talk about this today. And we're going to kind of understand, what does it mean to have high blood pressure? And why is it important for you to lower your blood pressure if it is high? So first, let's talk a little bit about what exactly is blood pressure. We hear that a lot. We go to the doctor, and the first thing they do, they sit us down in a chair, they put a cuff on our arm, and they take our blood pressure, and they tell us these numbers. Oh, you're 139 over 79. You're 120 over 80. That's good, they'll say. And you're like, okay, whatever. Or they'll say, that's a little high. Maybe it's just because you're stressed. But what does that all really mean? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And then we're going to talk about, if it is high, how can we manage that? And why is it important that we manage that? So let's jump right in. First off, what exactly is blood pressure? So when your heart beats, it pumps blood into your blood vessels. And this creates pressure against the blood vessel walls. And blood pressure causes the blood to flow to all parts of your body. When you're healthy, your arteries are very elastic. They stretch when your heart pumps blood through them, and then they relax when your heart rests. And how much they stretch depends on how much force the blood exerts. Now, everybody has blood pressure and everybody needs blood pressure. Without it, the blood would not circulate through our bodies, and our vital organs would not get the oxygen and the food that they need to work. And again, the reason this is so important is because you need this. It is essential to your life. And if you're going to continue living, continue farming, and continue caring for your family, you need to have a healthy blood pressure. So let's talk about those two numbers. They always tell you, your blood pressure is, in this case, 165 over 98. So what do those numbers mean? So two numbers are recorded when measuring your blood pressure. The top number, or the larger number, is called systolic pressure. And that measures the pressure on your arteries when your heart beats. The bottom number, or the smaller number, is called diastolic pressure. And that's the pressure on your arteries when your heart rests between the beats. And then blood pressure is measured in millimeters of mercury. So normal blood pressure is below 120 systolic over 80 diastolic millimeters of mercury. If you're an adult and your systolic pressure is 120 to 129 and your diastolic, or that bottom number, is less than 80, you have what we call elevated blood pressure. High blood pressure is a pressure of 130 systolic or higher and 80 diastolic or higher that stays high over time. If your blood pressure goes above this and stays there, you are at risk of many different health problems. And really, the only way to find out if you have high blood pressure is to have your blood pressure measured. And a great way to do that is just to have your healthcare provider check it for you. For proper diagnosis of high blood pressure, your healthcare provider will usually use an average of your blood pressures. So they'll usually take an average based on 2 or more readings obtained over 2 or more occasions. So they might take your blood pressure twice, and they might take once in each arm. And then they might compare that to the last time you were in the doctor's office. And they kind of tell you your blood pressure, or if you're high or low, depending on that average. And so what are some of the causes of blood pressure? So high blood pressure is also sometimes called hypertension. So if you've heard your doctor say you have hypertension, or if you've been reading up on stuff and it says these symptoms might be due to hypertension, that's the same thing as high blood pressure. But most of the time, you can have high blood pressure and not know it, because there usually are no symptoms. And a lot of times, doctors will call it the silent killer. So if we think about it, our heartbeat normally beats 60 to 100 times a minute under normal circumstances. And your blood pressure rises when your heart beats, and it falls when your heart relaxes between beats. But our blood pressure can actually change very rapidly. It's affected by changes in our stress level, our posture, our physical activity, medications that we take, caffeine use, and sleep. There are many factors that increase your chances of developing high blood pressure, and those are called risk factors. And some risk factors we can control, and some we cannot. So let's talk about some risk factors that we can control. So if we have high blood pressure and we need to lower it, these are some things that we can change. Overweight or obesity. People with a body mass index of 25 or higher are more likely to develop high blood pressure. Poor diet. Eating an unhealthy diet that is high in saturated and trans fats, high in sodium, and low in potassium, while drinking too much alcohol, can increase our blood pressure. Diabetes is another thing that we can kind of control and manage. Approximately 80% of people with diabetes will also develop high blood pressure when they're not properly managing their diabetes. Another thing that we can manage is a lack of regular physical activity. An inactive lifestyle makes it easier to become overweight and increases the chance of high blood pressure. High cholesterol. Over 63% of people with high blood pressure also have high cholesterol. And finally, something that we can manage is smoking and secondhand smoke. Smoking can increase your risk of damaged arteries, and it temporarily raises your blood pressure. Also, exposure to other people's smoke increases the risk of heart disease for non-smokers. So if you live in a household with a smoker, getting them to stop smoking is healthy for them, but it's also healthy for yourself. Now, some factors that we really can't manage, but can cause high blood pressure. The first one is race. African Americans develop high blood pressure more often than any other racial and ethnic groups. It also tends to be more severe in African Americans, and some medications are less effective in treating high blood pressure for that race. Another thing that we can't really control is our genetics. So, our family history. A tendency to have high blood pressure that runs in the family means that it's more likely for you to get it. If your parents or other close blood relatives have high blood pressure, you're more likely to develop that as well. And that's not something you can really change. Another thing that we can't change is our age and our gender. In general, the older we get, the greater our chance of developing high blood pressure. A higher percentage of men will have high blood pressure up until the age 64. And then after the age of 65, a higher percentage of women will have high blood pressure. So those are things that we can't really change or do anything about. I mean, I wish that we could all go backward in time and be children again, but unfortunately, that's not the case. The other thing that we can't control is chronic kidney disease. And this is kind of a vicious cycle. High blood pressure may occur because of kidney disease, but having high blood pressure can also cause further kidney damage. So that's a really vicious cycle. If you have kidney diseases, your blood pressure goes up, it's harder on your kidneys, makes your blood pressure go up some more. Another thing that we can't really control is sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea may increase your risk of developing high blood pressure, and it is common in people with resistant hypertension. And finally, social economic status and psychosocial stress. These factors can affect access to basic living necessities, medications, healthcare providers, and the ability to sometimes adapt to healthy lifestyle changes. The other or another factor in high blood pressure is that various drugs and substances can sometimes elevate our blood pressure or make blood pressure management difficult. So the drugs that you're seeing on the screen right now, it's not limited to just these, but these include alcohol, I always struggle with this word, but I'll come back to it. Antidepressants, atypical antipsychotics, caffeine, decongestants, herbal supplements, immunosupplements, oral contraceptives, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, systemic corticosteroids, and some cancer drugs. Amphetamines. I always mess it up when I'm trying to go through this list, and I always have to come back to it. Amphetamines is the other one that can really raise your blood pressure. So thanks for hanging with me through that list. But if you take any of these on a regular basis, it can be hard to manage your blood pressure.
Melissa, we actually had a question come in, which tied in perfectly to your slide. The question was, does caffeine have an effect on blood pressure? Which, yes, it does.
Yes, great question. It does. It can raise your blood pressure. And again, if you're having some coffee in the morning in moderation, it's not gonna give you like a dangerously high amount. But if you're drinking energy drinks with high amounts of caffeine, the nitro coffees all day long, sodas with a lot of caffeine, it can affect your blood pressure throughout the days, the weeks, the month, to where it raises it to that level where it stays higher, and then you can actually be diagnosed with high blood pressure. So if you're drinking that much caffeine, think of some ways that maybe you can cut back, maybe get a little bit more sleep at night if possible, and then try to lay back on some of the caffeine.
Is there a recommended maximum amount of caffeine to drink in a day, or does it just depend on the person?
That is a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that question. We do have an expert on here, Alyssa Peterson. I'm not sure if she would know the answer to that either, but I'm gonna call a friend here, phone a friend. Alyssa, do you know, is there a recommended amount of caffeine to have in any given day?
Hi, everyone. I believe it is less than offhand. Don't we might have to look further into this, but I believe it's under 500 milligrams per day for an adult.
And does anyone on here know how much is a cup of coffee?
Isn't it about 90 milligrams, they say?
Yeah, I think that's about like usually I think it's about 3 to 4 like cups of coffee, right, per day is is usually the max.
And like a can of soda is anywhere between 40 and 50. A bubbler, I think, is about 60 to 70. I know a lot of caffeine, just because of being pregnant in the past. Can only have 200 milligrams, they say, of caffeine. And so in our office, we always joke that we have some members of our team that drink a lot of coffee. And so that was a question I want to ask. Like, is there a thing that's too much? And the answer is yes.
Good questions. Thanks, Alyssa. So next, let's go into how high blood pressure can damage your body. So having high blood pressure can hurt your body in many different ways. Obviously, your heart and your arteries. So your heart must pump with more force, and the arteries must carry blood that's moving under greater pressure when you have high blood pressure. So high blood pressure adds to the workload of your heart and damages your arteries and your organs, such as your brain, your kidneys, your eyes, and then obviously your heart over time. If high blood pressure continues over a long period, your heart and arteries may not function as well as they should, and then affecting those other organs. So compared to people whose blood pressure is normal, people with high blood pressure are more likely to have a stroke, to develop heart failure, and to have coronary diseases, which can lead to heart attacks. But high blood pressure can also cause vision loss and sexual problems. So how can we treat high blood pressure? First and foremost, as I said earlier, it's so important to talk to your healthcare provider. And when you talk to your healthcare provider, ask them this question specifically. Ask them about your 10-year risk for heart disease and stroke. So if you're worried about this, write that down to ask your doctor. Ask them about your 10-year risk for heart disease and stroke. Your healthcare provider will determine your level of risk and work with you to choose the best treatment approach. The effects of high blood pressure can be prevented or reduced if it's treated early and kept under control, and your physicians can help you with that. And just making healthy lifestyle changes is the first step in preventing or managing your high blood pressure. So healthy lifestyle changes can include stopping smoking, eating a healthier diet that includes potassium-rich foods, limiting your salt intake, maybe limiting your alcohol intake, or, reaching and maintaining a healthy weight. So maybe losing some weight. And then the last one is just getting regular physical activity.
Melissa,
Now go
sorry,
ahead.
Melissa.
No, that's fine.
On that topic, is there a certain age that you should start to be concerned or like looking for? Like, yes, we always know that we should live a healthy lifestyle, but at what point should you have that question or ask your doctor in your life?
So I would argue all ages of life, right? Like at every point in your life, you should wonder, even for children. It's more rare for children to have high blood pressure, right? But it's important that at any age, children up to aged adults, we should be going in at least once a year to have a physical with our physician. Let our physician know kind of our averages, know where we're at, and always be asking them that question. So again, like a lot of times we hear a number, oh, your blood pressure is 121/80 today. That's really good. And you're like, okay, it must be good. Or they'll say, oh, your blood pressure's 129/82. It's a little elevated today, but it's not bad. And what does that really mean? Like, our doctors don't always go into explaining because a lot of times people don't want to know. They're just like, just tell me if it's good or bad. But I would argue that it's a good thing to just ask your doctor at any age. So if you're an adult, if you're going in for a yearly physical, they give you your blood pressure, just say, hey, what's my 10-year risk of heart attack, of stroke, of heart disease? And hopefully they're going to tell you, you know what? Your blood pressure is 120/80. That's exactly where we want to see you. There is no risk at this time. Next year you go in, ask them again, ask them again. And that way they know that you're conscious about it and that you care and want to know.
Perfect. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
will also jump in and say, especially if you have a family history of high blood pressure, that's a good sign to, as you become an adult, in your early 20s, you might be in college, you're transitioning through who knows what. It's a good time to really, as Melissa said, get your annual checkups. And I would urge people, especially if you have a family history, or maybe you don't know, ask your family. Does anyone have high blood pressure? Are they taking any medications? That, if they do, is another reason for you to go in and get checked annually.
Thanks, Alyssa. So as we're talking about treating high blood pressure, so if you do ask your doctor and they're like, yep, yours has been high the last couple of visits, and they're talking about treating it, again, remember lifestyle changes, but also there are medications that can help to reduce and control blood pressure. Your healthcare provider may prescribe you medicines in addition to diet and lifestyle changes, and that's okay. Depending on your risk and your blood pressure levels, you may even need to take more than just one type of medication to keep your blood pressure at a healthy level. That's not a bad thing, but just follow the recommendations of your physicians. So, when you're trying to treat and manage your blood pressure, don't be afraid to be active. Physical activity should be part of your daily routine, and it helps to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease by improving blood pressure and other risk factors. But it can also help you lose weight and stay at your ideal weight. Now, I know most of our audience here are farmers or people in agribusiness. And I will tell you, growing up on the dairy farm, and even when I was teaching, I was still living on the farm. So I would go out, even when I was in high school, in the mornings, I'd go out every morning. I'd scrape down all the poop. I'd bed underneath the cows, get the units together. I'd milk all the cows, so 45 to 60 cows, milk all the cows, clean up the milk house, put the buckets away, and then sometimes I'd scrape the mangers and feed the cows as well. I mean, we had a family, so I didn't have to do everything, right? But those were kind of my chores and the things that I was doing on a daily basis. I do them in the morning before school, and then I do them at night again after school. And I always thought, I don't need to exercise. That is exercise. And you're right that it's a form of exercise, but what we really need to do when we exercise is we need to elevate our heart rate a little bit. We need to get our heart pumping and kind of keep that muscle healthy and strong. So we need to do more than just our daily routine. So while milking may seem like a lot of exercise to someone who doesn't do it on a daily basis, if you are doing it on a daily basis, it becomes routine for your body and doesn't really get your heart rate up. So adding in some extra exercises is really important. So as farmers, how can we do that? And I have a couple examples. If you have more than one building or more than one farm, maybe you ride your bike from one farm to the other farm instead of jumping on the ATV or the UTV if you have time. Or maybe while the TMR is filling, you do some body weight squats and just do a couple squats. See how many you can do before either your legs are too sore or the TMR is all filled up. Another good one is, I know when it's time to plant, harvest, cut hay, bale hay, combine, whatever we're doing, when it's time to do those things, we end up sitting in the tractor for long periods. I would recommend that you take a break every hour, get out of the tractor, and try to do 20 jumping jacks. And it sounds so simple. We remember when we were kids and we all just ran around and jumping jacks all the time, and we did them in gym class. They're a lot harder as an adult, and doing 20 proper jumping jacks at one time, if you haven't been working out, is actually hard on the body. So, take a break and see how many jumping jacks you can actually do. We should be aiming for at least 90 to 150 minutes of exercise per week where we're getting our heart rate up. And so if you're struggling to do that, talk to your healthcare provider about a good plan for you as well. Or if you're already struggling with some high blood pressure and maybe you don't feel like you can exercise safely, talk to your healthcare provider and have them help you come up with an exercise routine. The next thing is your diet can really help treat and manage your blood pressure. Again, your healthcare provider is great. They can design an eating plan for you to help reduce your blood pressure and control your weight. If you ask for some of these things, they will give them to you. They don't always offer them, but if you ask, they have them available. So a lot of times your diet plan will include fruits and vegetables, whole grains, usually low-fat dairy products, poultry, fish, and nuts. Your diet will also usually limit your sweets and your sodium intake, as well as sometimes reducing your red meat intake. Now, I'm not saying we have to get rid of those things, but we just limit them a little bit and remember everything in moderation. Once you're given a healthy eating plan, or once you find one that works well for you, it's important that you follow it and that you stick to it over time. So if you stick to it for a month and your blood pressure kind of goes down and you're like, all right, I'm good, and you go back to your old habits, your blood pressure is going to rise again. So it's important that you stick to it and make those habits become a reality. And also, your diet is going to include advice on how much alcohol you drink. So when we think about alcohol, alcoholic drinks are usually very low in nutrients and very high in calories. So if you're trying to lose weight, it's best to avoid them. Now, I realize that we're dairy farmers, we're farmers here in Wisconsin, and telling you to stop drinking is a big deal, right? And probably loses me a little bit of credibility if I tell you to just stop altogether. But seriously, like, think about this in moderation. It's okay to enjoy a drink on Friday night and Saturday night. That's fine. But drinking 3 beers every night after milking, that gets to be a bit excessive. Or if you're headed off to graduation parties, weddings, birthday parties for an entire Saturday and you're drinking all day, again, that tends to be a little bit excessive. So if we cut down on that, it can really help with our blood pressure. The other thing is the amount of sodium that we have in our diet. So we should aim for an ideal limit of less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. Even cutting back our sodium by like 1,000 milligrams a day can help improve our blood pressure and our heart health. So some ways to do that is to obviously reduce the amount of salt in your cooking and at the table. There's a lot of herbs and salt-free spices that you can buy these days. They're easy to find in all of your local grocery stores. And using those and learning how to use those instead of salt is one way to get started on that. The next thing to do is read food labels and learn about the sodium content of prepared foods. Choose the lower sodium options. For example, foods with 140 milligrams or less sodium per serving are considered to be low in sodium. Now, I just want to state, remember, as you're working outside in hot temperatures, remember that when you're heavily sweating, you do need to replenish your salt. But most of our processed foods have enough salt that that's already handled. But if you are feeling kind of drowsy or you're just feeling a little off, sometimes a Gatorade or an electrolyte packet in your bottle of water can help with that. But some other ways to reduce your salt is to make more foods at home. So our pre-made salad dressings, soups, tomato sauces, those can be that we buy from the grocery store, those can be very high in sodium. But those are also really easy to make at home. You can find recipes anywhere online, and usually they're only 2 to 3, sometimes 4 or 5 ingredients, easy to make, and that reduces your salt intake so much. Also, eating out increases our sodium amounts by a lot. So making foods at home and packing lunches is so much better than running into town for a cafe meal or to grab some fast food or to stop by our local Quick Trip. If we can pack our lunch and have that with us, we're really kind of lowering that sodium level intake. The next thing is that we want to raise our potassium. So foods that are rich in potassium are very important in managing high blood pressure because potassium actually lessens the effects of the sodium that we intake. So increasing potassium is recommended in adults with blood pressure above that 120/80 who are otherwise healthy. So maybe you're otherwise healthy, but your blood pressure is a little high, then increase your potassium. So we should aim for about 3,500 to 5,000 milligrams per day of potassium, and preferably getting these through eating foods that are rich in potassium. So I have some potassium-rich foods on the screen, but these include bananas, avocados, cantaloupe, fat-free or low-fat milk, yogurt, potatoes, sweet potatoes, spinach, tuna, and halibut. Now I am going to have a caveat here. So we do have to be careful not to get too much sugar or too much fat with our potassium. So while bananas are known to be high in potassium, they're also very high in sugars, which can affect diabetes or cause weight gain. So having one banana in the morning with breakfast is great. Buying an entire bunch of bananas at Quick Trip and eating them as you're driving out to the field just spikes your sugar a lot. The other thing is avocados, while very high in potassium, very good for you, are also very high in fat content. So having like a quarter of an avocado a day is actually recommended, but having an entire avocado every day, 7 days a week, just adds a lot of fat into your diet. Also, it's important to know this. Potassium can be harmful if you have a kidney disease or any other condition that maybe affects how your body handles potassium. And some medications also do not work well with high levels of potassium. So if you're not currently eating a lot of potassium and you want to increase that, again, talk to your healthcare provider and make sure that that's safe for you and your individual body. And then another way to manage blood pressure, again, is weight loss. So people with high blood pressure are also often overweight. And if that's true of you, your healthcare provider can prescribe a healthy weight loss plan that's right for you. I can't give a plan here because everybody's body, everybody's kind of lifestyles are different. But your physician knows you as an individual and they can help you figure out that plan so that you can often lose weight as well as lowering your blood pressure. Now, depending on your risk and your blood pressure levels, your doctor may also prescribe a type of medication. And that medication will just help keep your blood pressures at a healthy level. And it's okay if that's the case. Again, there are some things that we can't change, such as maybe our genetics, our family history, maybe our race or ethnicity, maybe our sleep apnea. We can't change those things, so it's okay sometimes if medications are needed. But also remember that every person reacts differently to medication. And so work with your healthcare provider as you start a new medication to find the best medication and the best dosage or amount for you. Some medications can cause side effects such as weakness, tiredness, drowsiness. Some have trouble sleeping. Some will feel a very slow or very fast heartbeat. You might get a skin rash, or you might be more sensitive to the sun. You might feel thirsty, muscle cramps, headaches are all some side effects. Another side effect could be constipation or diarrhea. However, if you have high blood pressure, the benefits of lowering your blood pressure could outweigh the side effects. So I know diarrhea is not fun. And maybe when you start a new medication, you might have diarrhea for 2 weeks until your body really gets used to it. But if it lowers your chance of having a heart attack and losing the farm due to medical costs of a heart attack, or even losing your life and leaving the farm to your family who needs you there, a little bit of diarrhea for a couple weeks while your body gets used to it is really better. So never stop taking your medication without first talking to your healthcare provider so that you're just on the right track. Tell them about your side effects. Tell them what makes it uncomfortable, but follow their recommendations. A way to really take ownership of your treatment plan is by tracking your blood pressure at home. And it's really not a hard thing to do. So the American Heart Association recommends home monitoring for all people with high blood pressure to help their healthcare provider determine whether treatments are working or not. Home monitoring is not a substitution for regular visits with your physician, but it can help supplement that. So blood pressure monitors can be purchased at most pharmacies and online. An automatic cuff style that just goes around the bicep and that type of monitor is recommended. But it is important to verify with your provider that your home blood pressure monitor is accurate. So maybe set up an appointment, go in, have them take your blood pressure, and then take it with your machine and see if it's similar and if it's well calibrated. And then also they can tell you if you have the correct cuff size and the correct fit and if you're using it properly. So once you're doing all that, then take your blood pressure and start monitoring, writing down what it is day by day. And then you can take that back to your doctor and show them what's working and what's not working for you. If you do decide to take home blood pressures, here are a few tips when you do that. First off, sit down, sit up nice and straight with both of your feet flat on the floor. Support your arm on a flat surface and make sure that your upper arm is about level with your heart. While the machine is taking your blood pressure, remain still and don't talk. Just be still and quiet. It only takes a couple seconds. And some other tips is 30 minutes before taking your blood pressure, do not smoke, exercise, or drink caffeinated beverages or alcohol. So 30 minutes before you take your blood pressure, don't smoke, exercise, drink caffeine, or drink alcohol. And that's going to give you a more accurate reading. Another thing you can do is take your blood pressure at the same time each day. And it's really great to actually take 2 readings 1 minute apart so that you can kind of find that good average. Again, it's recommended that you actually take 2 readings 1 minute apart in the morning before taking any medications, and then take 2 readings 1 minute apart again in the evening before you eat dinner. And then again, record all your readings and bring them to your next appointment. So if you are looking for even more info, if everything I have said, you're like, wow, I still want to read more on this. I want to learn more. The first place to go is your local physician or your healthcare team. They can really help you. Some places to go online if you're really looking for some more information is check out the American Heart Association and check out Life is Why online. And they're just going to have, again, the information that I shared, but maybe a little bit more in depth if you want to read more, if you really want to dig in. They have some great resources. So again, my name is Melissa Pluckelman Brown, and I work for the National Farm Medicine Center, which is embedded in the Marshfield Clinic Research Institute. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me. I have my email on the screen, melissapluckelman@sanfordhealth.org, or you can follow along on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn at Marshfield Research or at Farm Medicine. Again, what we try to do is just supply our farmers with the resources they need to stay safe, healthy, and alive with their families.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for all that information. I know I've certainly learned a lot. We have had a few questions come in from our guests in the audience, and so I'll just start reading them. So the first question, which we did cover, but I think just it's good to reiterate, is what are some easy things I can do every day to ensure good blood pressure?
So I'm just going to reiterate again, cut down on your sodium. Go out and get some exercise, get your heart rate up a little bit every day, whether it's a fast-paced walk, maybe a bike ride, maybe you're just dancing in the kitchen, get some physical activity in, increase your potassium. So eat a banana every day, have some spinach, have a salad every other day, so decrease sodium, increase physical activity, increase potassium. Alyssa, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered it, Melissa.
Thanks.
Awesome. And then another one, you mentioned jumping jacks and body weight squats. What other easy exercises can I do while I'm standing around on the farm?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on, your body and what your body's comfortable with, but running in place is a great one while you're waiting for something to fill up. There, you can get down and do some push-ups. Personally, my shoulders, I think it has to do with lifting too many units, but my shoulders won't take push-ups. But I do see people getting down in the barn sometimes and just seeing how many they can do. Another one is we had some pipes in our barn that went on either side of our pipeline. They were metal pipes. And growing up, we would always compete with my dad to see who could do more chin-ups. So maybe, do a friendly competition with other people in the barn. Maybe they're workers with you, maybe they're family, maybe they're your own children, maybe they're your parents. See who can do more pull-ups or more chin-ups. Yeah, jumping jacks is a great thing. Riding your bike, just jumping up and down, doing a little dance, like get a song in your head. Not only is it going to increase your heart rate, it's also going to increase your endorphins and just make you feel happier. And we know that stress is high with our farmers, and there's a lot of other factors in farming that causes mental issues. So by doing a little dance, that's going to increase your endorphins and make you feel happier too.
Yeah, absolutely. Focus on yourself. Well, we covered a lot today, Melissa. I guess what are one or two key takeaways you really want our listeners here to walk away with and remember after this dairy signal?
You just said it, Emily, like take care of yourself. So I'm not here to tell you what to do or how to live your life. What I really want to say is that we care about you. Your family cares about you. Your animals care about you. They need you. And take care of yourself by just going to your annual physical and asking your physician, what's my 10-year risk? And what do I personally need to do to make sure that I'm here for the long haul? We care about you. We care about your heart. We care about your blood pressure because we want you here with us and we want you here on the farm doing what you love. And that's what I really want you to take away from this is not that I'm preaching at you, not that I'm telling you how to live your life, but that I'm just telling you we care and we want you here with us. So take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again, Melissa and Alyssa, for joining us here today on the Dairy Signal. Want to say a huge thank you as well to all of Professional Dairy Producers National Partners who are with us year in and year out and make programs like the Dairy Signal possible. And again, going back to our farmers, we do care deeply about you. Hope you had a wonderful the last weekend of June. Somehow time is flying by far faster than we all think it should be. But hope you all are safe this coming weekend. And look forward to seeing you back here on the Dairy Signal next week. Bye now.